quick note. If you want to understand what really makes people succeed in German and how you can build a language to actually use it, join my free live workshop at bettergerman.info/workshop. Welcome to the Better German podcast. My name is Susi Blumel, and I will teach you German and everything around the language, the countries, and the culture. Welcome to this new episode. This is number 2 of my mini-series on cases. And if you haven't listened to the last episode, which is the first of the mini-series about cases, then I suggest you to do that. You can find it by going on bettergerman.info/35 because it's episode 35. Also, I want to start right away. If you're confused about cases and learning German, I highly suggest you to take a look at my German beginners course. In my courses, you will learn how to make correct sentences, but you will deal with no theoretical grammar rules and will learn how to build sentences in a more natural way, like you learned your own language. So, go to bettergerman.info/courses, and there you will find the info on how to enroll in the very new, I'm very proud of it, German Beginners course. And if you want to hear more about this approach with less grammar, then I suggest you to listen to the podcast episode that I made about it. It's the podcast episode 8. And it's called How Much Grammar Do We Need? You can find it by going on bettergerman.info/8 or just finding episode 8 wherever you're listening to this podcast. And this one you can also find on YouTube. All right, so let's get into this next part of what are cases. Maybe you're wondering, why am I even making these episodes if I don't believe in teaching them? First of all, that's not entirely true. Cases are a phenomenon in the German language, and you will have to learn them if you want to learn German. However, it's more a question on how you teach them. And if you're a beginner, German beginner, and you get thrown at a lot of rules, and maybe they're not even properly explained, then it will be very hard for you. If you have a language that has cases and you are very familiar with your own grammar, maybe this is not going to be a problem for you. But in that case, you will probably not listen to this episode. I'm doing this episode because I feel for all the students that try to learn German and have troubles because they're running into things they don't understand. And one of the things that you may run into, or maybe have run into, or could run into, is cases. So that's why I'm doing this mini series about what are they. So the next thing we're going over is, what are these? We have 4 of them, and I'm going to tell you the name of them, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea of each one's usage. At the end of the entire series, there is going to be a cheat sheet. I'm working on it. There's going to be a cheat sheet about cases, which is going to be a summary with written up examples of what I'm going to go over in these episodes. So definitely continue listening. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss it, then just sign up for the newsletter. Okay, let's go into this episode and the cases. We have 4 of them. Traditionally, they're numbered. I'm going to give you a very short explanation of each of the cases. So the first case is called the nominative. Nominative basically means that's giving the name. So that's the name of the word. And that's what you are learning when you're learning a vocabulary thing, like when you learn a new word or when you look in a dictionary. That's the basic form. In German, we usually use the article with it. Der, die, and das are the articles that go with the nouns. These are the basic forms. Der Mann, that's the basic form, the man. Or der Computer. In a sentence, when we use this basic form, then it means that this is the thing that is doing something, to keep it simple. So that's the nominative, the first case. The second case is called the genitive. It's actually, if you learn German, usually the one that you learn the last, because it is not used as often as the others, and it's hardly used in spoken communication. But what it is, it's basically when you say something like Peter's dog. So Peter's, that you would write with apostrophe and then S, Peter's, that would be in German the genitive. And it's actually similar for many words. You just add an S for names, for example, and then you have the genitive. So Maria's, Peter's, blah, blah, blah. The basic meaning of it, it's something belongs to someone or something belongs with someone. So when I say Peter's daughter, Peter's Tochter, she doesn't belong to him, she belongs with him. There is a connection. So that's the second case, the genitive. You probably learned it in a different sequence. I'm going to tell it to you in a second. So the third case is the dative. For the beginning, you just learn the specific verbs that want this case, and everything else is the accusative. And the accusative is the fourth case, and it is the case that you use in most cases when you have a sentence and you have more than just a two-word sentence like the dog sleeps, der Hund schläft, 3 words, but you have a sentence like I see the tree, ich sehe den Baum, oder he drinks coffee, trinkt Kaffee, then this thing, coffee, den Baum, that is accusative. So whenever you have an action of the verb going over to something, then it's usually accusative. So these are the meanings. So when you learn German, and also in my courses, how you learn it, you learn first the nominative, which is every word, the basic form. Then you learn accusative, which is the form which is used most other than the basic form. And it's the form that is used when an action in a sentence goes over to something. So when you have more than an extremely short sentence, you usually have an accusative case. And then you learn the dative, and then the last one is the genitive. That's quite advanced. So before you're quite an advanced student, you probably don't bother about the genitive. By the way, that doesn't mean that the genitive is not used at all. Some people say that. I disagree, but it's used less than the others, and it is used very little in day-to-day spoken communication. Maybe you have had the thought, maybe I'm not good at German. Then I want to assure you that's not the point. That's not the problem. I'm going to show you what is the problem. And how I show you is I have actually put together a workshop. It's a free live workshop on Zoom. And in there, I'm going over what could make you think that. We'll cover what could go wrong, but I'm also going to show you how can it be done right? So go to bettergerman.info/workshop and sign up for the workshop, and I'll see you there. Now we have a little bit of an understanding. As I said, you can download the cheat sheet that will give you a better understanding even. So now let's look what determines which case, which is the most important thing for you to understand. Now that you understand why we even have these cases, the most important thing for you to understand is what determines then, what causes which case to be used. If you have a sentence, anything more than a two-part sentence. So when you have, I see the tree, she likes the dog, I feed the cat, I cook dinner, all of these things after the verb are accusative. So I'll give you a few examples. Ich sehe das Bild. I see the picture. Das Bild is accusative. Ich liebe meinen Mann. I love my husband. Meinen Mann is accusative. Ich kaufe das Kleid. I buy the dress. Das Kleid is accusative. So that's something you need to know. The most changes regarding accusative are if the word is der. So if it's a male word. Then you learn which verbs, which special verbs, and the most frequent ones are just 20 or 30, want dative. So to give you a short summary, the nominative, the first case, is the thing that we talk about in the sentence. The genitive, which is the second case, for some reason, I don't know who made up the sequence, is something that you will not learn until you're quite a little bit more advanced, and it shows possession as its basic meaning. Then the most important case, and the one other than the nominative you will learn first, is the accusative. It's numbered the fourth case. The accusative is the case that you're going to use most, and for most sentences that have an object in the grammar sense, meaning something that the activity of the sentence is going over. And that is the most used case. And basically how you learn this is you can safely assume that most verbs will use accusative, except for a list of maybe 20, at least for a beginner, that you will just learn. And these other cases, they want dative. So this is the basic thing about cases, the verbs wanting cases. And then there is a whole other thing that I'm going to go in a little bit in the next episode, and that is certain small words like in, on, under, with, by, and things like that. In English, they're called prepositions. In German, they're called Präpositionen. And each one of these prepositions in German asks for a specific case. And that's something I'm going to start going into in the next episode. And again, if you're looking for a course which makes this a little bit simpler and doesn't use so many big grammar words, then take a look at my German beginners course. I'm going to link it in the show notes. And hear you, or I hope that you hear me in the next episode. It's a pleasure for me to talk to you as always. Bye-bye. Here is a story from one of my students. She came to Austria because of love, and she started learning German, and she tried learning German, and she learned German with different people. She had private teachers and private tutors that tried to help her, and she worked hard, and she didn't speak German. Then she came to me. I worked with her, and she was not a difficult student, frankly. Not at all. She was one of the easiest students I've ever had. We didn't do private lessons. She was in one of my small group programs, and after 2 months she spoke German. That's her saying that, not me. Her name was Diana, and I'm not telling you this because I want to tell you how great of a teacher I am. But I'm telling this to you because what was wrong here was the method. It wasn't her, it wasn't the language. And most people, when they run into a problem, they think it's them or they think it's the language. And it's neither of them. Everyone can learn German, but you have to use the right method. So if you want to know what you can do to actually learn German, then join me in the free workshop, How to Actually Learn German. It's really a culmination of all the things that I'm using in my German programs and also in the podcast, by the way. Join me in the workshop. It's a live, free workshop with me. I'd love to see you there. It's on Zoom, and you can find out everything about it at bettergerman.info/workshop.